Beautiful, beautiful day today. I'll just give you a little backyard there. Nice, beautiful sunshine out here. And as some of you guys know, I live up here in the state of Washington, kind of in a town of Snohomish. And so, anyway, I thought I would just sort of avail myself to any questions that might be going out there. We'll see as people hopefully arrive. And we'll see what happens. So, anyway, Maximus he's over there hanging out, just kind of chilling out, getting a little sun and fresh air. He's been, I took him to the store. He likes to go with me on car trips, and I had him jump out of the car, and he sat in the driveway like, "Hey, I'm getting a suntan." So, anyway, so that's the deal here. Um, what else is going on there? So, I've got some people in there. An A1 meat eater kid. Hey, doctor, good to see you. Shawn saying, hey, Shawn. And we got Goalie saying hi. Tracy Kinsel from Corpus Christi, Texas. I've been down to Corpus a few times. I used to live up in Lake Jackson, which is, as you may know, just up the road a little north of Corpus. Katherine from somewhere saying hi. Jane Saroma. New carnivore, 3 days. Good. Well, Jane, good luck to you. Hopefully things are doing well. Morpheus is saying hi. Kel, a cup of sunshine. Sean says that my strongest in carnivore after a few months of adaptation. What up? Yeah, I mean that's something I've noticed. I'm 50, so I guess almost 57 and a half right now, and I am at 57. Certainly the strongest I've been in a long time. Probably since my early 40s was the last time I was this strong. So I'm pretty tickled about that, and certainly I'm a fair bit stronger than I was when I was 50 when I started carnivore, and so that was going on 7.5 years ago, and so I put on strength, I put on muscle, I've gotten stronger, my performance has gotten better, and so there you go, so good. So let's see what else here. Okay. Hi, I'm from the Mitten State. Sharing. I don't know what the Mitten State is. I don't know. Do we have? I don't think any states are officially named the Mitten State. So I'm guessing it's probably got to be a cold state. I'm guessing, but I'm not sure where that is. Thurmont, Maryland. I've never heard of Thurmont, Maryland. Well, hello, Dr. Baker from Chicago suburbs. Says P Raw Praw Mike Primal Mike. Yeah, I used to live in Chicago Heights. So when I was a little kid, I lived in Chicago Heights and then a place called Country Club Hills as well. What is the reason for your blood change, sir? I'm not sure what that's in reference to. This is from Turamore. I mean, you got to remember your blood changes literally every single day, every single second. Your blood is fluctuating. Paul Thomas, would you attempt a 500-meter world record someday for all age groups? On the concept too. That would be tough, man. 109.8. Phil Clapp has that. Phil is about 6'9", around 300 pounds. He just said it a few weeks ago. In fact, it was 110.5 for many, many years. Liu Young set that back in the early 1990s, and that record has stood unchallenged or unbroken. 3 or 4 guys have tied it now over time. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I could get to that level. I mean, I think I can get to certainly 500 meters. I think 113. I think I could get, which would be, there's very few people in the world that can do that. I mean, to put it in perspective, what's his name? Brian Shaw, world's strongest man, pulled a 114.4 or something like that. So I think I could do that. Remember I am 57. Anyway, Cassie Julich, can I expect relief from hip arthritis? Well, maybe. I don't know. I don't know for sure. I mean, it's one of those things that for a lot of people they do in fact see significant improvement in arthritis pain for sure. Absolutely, inflammation goes down. How long does it take? 3 months is a good estimate. There is some certainly things that I don't think even a carnivore diet would impact. I mean, it depends on how far along it is. So I mean, that's really the question. It's worth trying though. Primal, I guess, how do you say it? Primal, Mike. I can pull a 140, 500 meter. That's not too bad. 140 is okay. I mean, depends how heavy you are. If you're a heavyweight, you should be able to pull 130, sub 130. If you're under 180 pounds, then probably you know that's reasonable. Um, Mitten and mutton. Okay. I don't want to lose any more on carnivore. How do I keep my weight? Says Elizabeth. Well, I mean, you can always, you could eat more. You could eat more free. Well, I mean, the problem is, I shouldn't say it so flippantly, but I mean, ultimately, you got to eat more typically. Particularly if you're talking about lean mass. I mean, your water fluctuation, yeah, you can eat carbs in your water. You'll blow up in water real quickly, or things like that, or maybe, inflammation will cause you to swell a little bit. But, um, how do you effectively eat more? I find, again, when I try to put on size, whether it's muscle or body fat in some cases, I just have to eat more frequently. And I find that rather than eat, like if I just, like today, I'm not trying to gain weight. In fact, I'm trying to lean out right now. I'm eating one big meal, pretty much. Sometimes I'll couple that with something small, like a small snack later in the day. But generally, that is a good sustainable way for me to eat less overall food. I feel pretty happy with that. I'm not overly hungry. I'm obviously getting good nutrition. But if I want to gain, then I find that rather than one big meal and a snack, I would do better with three medium-sized meals, of which would equal a greater amount of food. I mean, you can always add like dairy products. You can always add carbs back in. Those things are all things that will stimulate your appetite. Dairy, you think about dairy. Dairy is designed for things to grow with, and they have, different, compounds within the dairy products that make us consume more. That's how it works. That's how it's designed to work. Think about it. It's inherently less satiating or more stimulatory towards our appetite. So we continue to think about that nursing baby, whatever it is, a baby human or a baby cow or a baby goat or whatever. It stimulates them to continue to consume foods. Vince Edwards, 56-year-old, testosterone 90, 920 free, 133, sexual hormone binding 66. What do you think? I have no idea what to think about that. Those are numbers. They don't mean anything to me. What can you deadlift? How lean are you? How strong are you? Do you wake up every morning with a heart on? I mean, those things actually count. Your numbers are meaningless in my view. I mean, I will tell you, my testosterone is way, way, way lower than all of those numbers. And yet I am an absolute beast because it is not just about your testosterone number. It's about your androgen receptor density, the androgen receptor quantity. I mean, these things all go into that. Mental Henselman just had a nice discussion on this with studies showing that it really doesn't matter. Your testosterone number, I mean, obviously people abusing steroids and taking that stuff, sure, it's going to make them stronger, but literally there is an incredible, level of variability within our receptive sensitivity rather. Doctor, I'm going to drive from Mexico to hack your health to say thank you. I lost 30 kilos. Randy Sellers. All right, Randy. Well, I look forward to shaking your hand, man. Awesome. Good to see you. I'll be there. And that Hack Your Health thing is in Austin, Texas on, gosh, something like May 30th, 31st, and June 1st, or something like that. Anyway, it's whatever that last weekend in May is, Memorial Day weekend. Tips on fixing shoulder impingement without surgery, says Nav for $1.99. I guess what is that, a super chat thing or something like that? It certainly gets your attention. It's bright blue. But so, first of all, I mean, shoulder impingement, I spent many years as an orthopedic surgeon, so I dealt with this extremely frequently. So, I mean, the thought is that when you raise your arm up, your rotator cuff kind of gets pinched up underneath the acromion. The acromion is kind of the sort of the edge of your shoulder where the end of the scapula kind of comes around. And there's thoughts that, swollen bursa, there's a shoulder bursitis, there's a bursa that's in there that kind of bursas are kind of like pads that kind of go between muscles, tendons, and bones. And that can be irritated, inflamed, and when you move a certain way, it hurts, right? That's the classic shoulder impingement. So some people say, well, just don't move it that way. Well, that's not very practical. You got to use your shoulder. Some people will say, well, we can stick, cortisone in there and shrink it, give you anti-inflammatory drugs. all of which can have limited efficacy. I wouldn't do those things that were me at this point. Um, what I believe, what I would try for 6 months to a year before I would consider surgery would be a very low inflammatory diet. Carnivore works quite well for this. I would also focus on uh, exercises. I would start with isometrics, just to build the strength up there. Again, depending on the reason for the impingement, whether it's maybe there's subtle shoulder instability, stronger, more uh, stronger muscles generally are more able to keep any joint, whether it's a shoulder joint or the knee joint, doesn't really matter, better, well stabilized. I mean, the stability of our shoulders are our least stable joint. It's got, you think of all the range of motion we have compared to, let's say, our hip or our knee. It's got this 6 degrees of motion, circumduction, all that stuff, and by design, so we can throw things. Remember, think about it, our shoulder morphology and anatomy and function was largely driven by our need to and our ability to throw that, and that came with hunting. And so the shoulder is inherently unstable. That's why it's the most commonly dislocated joint. Um, so the muscles become even more important in the stability there. All right, let me just jump around and see what things. Mountain bike addict. I like being strong and thin. No need to be giant to be strong. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some. If I had to pick one, would I rather be strong or big? Strong every time. Strong is much more predictive for better things, and the way you train to be strong versus big is also kind of different. I mean, yes, lifting heavy weights will make you both strong and big, but I mean, if you primarily want to train for strength, it's less volume and heavier stuff. If you primarily want to train for being muscular and having a lot of muscle, then it's higher volume, uh, and probably that's just higher volume. Where can I get the original Carnivore T-shirt, Michael Moss? Oh, the one with the little dinosaur on there. I don't have any idea where I got that. Man, I got to tell you, over the years, people have just sent me shirts, and I unfortunately can't remember who sent me that. So I don't know. A lot of times you can just like photo capture it, and then online there's a thing that'll tell you how to just get it printed, so you can do that. I know that this company, Better Fed Beef, who I get a lot of their beef from, is making a bunch of T-shirts. I don't know if they're selling them yet, but they plan on it, I think. So they've got some cool ones. Paul Harwood. G'day from Aussie, from an Aussie. I'm an ex-butcher, 64-year-old, done keto, going carnivore next. Thanks for the info, inspiring. We need to get back there and be a current butcher. We need more butchers again. All right. So do you spend much time working on flexibility? It's not my major focus, but I do spend some time in that. And a lot of the stuff I do is just in the range of motion that's necessary for me to do the sports that I'm doing. One of the things I'm working on a lot on right now, some of you guys may recall, I said that, like I said, I'm 57 and a half years now. So when I turn 60, there are things I'd like to be able to do. I'd like to be able to dunk a basketball, it's very rare. There's very few 60-year-olds that have ever dunked a basketball. Most of them are like ex-NBA guys. I think Michael Jordan just did recently at 60. I think Dr. J did it. I think a guy named Marquise Johnson, I think, has done it. There's a very few, vanishingly few people that can dunk after 60. I'd like to be one of them. Now, I am 6'5", so that's obviously a benefit. But again, so I mean, I can reach up and grab the rim right now at 57. So I have to lose a little bit of weight. I'm 260. I probably have to get down to 240-ish, 245 maybe. And I am working on a lot of what is called extensive plyometrics, and I'll continue to improve on that to where I work on more intensive plyometrics. And so extensive plyometrics are just lots and lots of bouncing, bounce, bounce, bounce. I wake up every morning, I have terrible ice cold motivation. Well, that's a great question. I've seen a number of people with MS. In fact, I was in Tennessee a few weeks ago, and I met two women, both had MS, both completely in remission, both on carnivore. I've met many, many people over the years with MS that have gone carnivore and had significant improvement, to include reversal of plaque on MRI. So we see objective findings that, at least for some people, it's helpful. So it's worth a shot. How would I do it? I would spend 6 months doing it. I would definitely do a higher fat version of carnivore for that particular condition, because I think that's what at least that's what I've seen occur, and most people have had success have confirmed that they had to do a higher fat version. So that's how I would start. Carnivore Ron, these are for those guys, has great exercises. Yeah, I do some event stuff. I've got sleds I pull. I do some backwards running up and down hills and that type of stuff. I've got a Nordic. I can do a Nordic curl, which is tough at my age and my height and weight, particularly. Matthew Albright, carnivore, 13 meds, courtesy of the VA, to 0 on 6 months carnivore. Good for you, man. That's awesome. All right, Lunder, why are you avoiding my question? I don't know. I don't think I saw your question, bud. Sorry. Um, Equinox FN, have you thought about carb cycling with fruits? Have I thought? Yeah, I mean, I used to do carb cycling years ago when I was on a ketogenic diet, and I never got any benefit from that. I mean, none benefit that was worthwhile. Game over. Does carnivore help with UC ulcer colitis? Yes. Well, it has. Like I said, all of these are caveated for. I can't. There's no guarantees for anybody on any of these things. But I've seen. I don't know. I can't even count countless number of people with both UC and Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. For you guys that don't know what UC is, those are both considered inflammatory bowel diseases, which are autoimmune diseases affecting the gut. They are becoming increasingly more common. In fact, there is a paper that is about to be published in the next couple months on both ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease and carnivore diet, showing that in many patients it is basically been effectively curative, or at least full remission. Is it true that your cortisol levels are really high? Is it true? Uh, I mean, that's a sort of a question. I mean, like every minute of the day, all the time. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, who knows that stuff? I just, in fact, literally put a video up today discussing that, and we know that that over the long term, while a lower carb diet may initially be met with higher cortisol levels, hypercortisolemia, that's usually a transient effect over about 3-4 weeks, and that tends to go away. So I kind of doubt it. Do you lift in the morning? Do you lift faster and try to eat some eggs or something before? I generally prefer to lift in the afternoons and train in the afternoons, but I do something in the morning. I mean, I get up and walk. I might do a little jumping. I might do some pull-ups, push-ups. I don't really count that as a workout. I count that as just moving around and stuff like that, getting going. So, what else we got here? I saw you post something about being fatter can cause shoulder pain. Is that true? Yeah, in many ways. And so when we tend to be, well, first of all, body fat um, will often elicit inflammatory cytokines, so adipokines, and so having excess fat on you just makes you more inflamed and irritated. Additionally, we know that often when you have excess body fat, your insulin levels are often higher. Not always, but often they are. Higher levels of insulin have been shown to lead to the increased production of, once again, inflammatory cytokines by so-called fibroblast-like synoviocytes. And so what we see is just a lot of irritation and inflammation in the joint and damage. And so, yes, getting rid of body fat is tremendously beneficial, not just for the less weight that's impacting the joint, which does occur, but more importantly, probably, is uh, the inflammatory aspect from the biology there. What else? David Lamb, thoughts on homocysteine as a biomarker? Is it useless? I mean, 10 years ago, we were kind of really excited about homocysteine, and we thought it was like this big, super important marker of inflammation, and it can be. But the problem is, it's not been very predictive. We've shown studies out there where people have actively reduced their homocysteine, and the outcomes have not been any better. So I think, again, this is the thing that I would say is something to be very cautious with. Any biomarker, any single biomarker, collection of biomarkers that somebody tells you this means that, We don't really know. Yes, in some such situations it could be the case, but it's more important to know why the biomarker does what it does than the actual amount, because like I said, if your um, blood glucose goes up, most people would say, um, yeah, that's a bad thing, right? But we know that like intense exercise will raise your blood glucose. Does that mean we should never exercise intently? I don't think so. Because we know that intense exercise is associated with a whole illness, a cold or trauma, your blood glucose called stress hyperglycemia. And that is for the reason because certain parts of our immune system actually work well in that scenario. There's certain macrophages that will actually be more effective in that setting. So again, it depends on why this is occurring, not so much that it is occurring, but why is it occurring? And this is something that Dave Feldman, the concept of, well, he's not the first one to talk about this, but with regard to cholesterol, he's talked about this. Why is the cholesterol raised? Is it because you are just stuffed full of energy and there's no more room for it to go? Or is it because there's a greater flux because you're actually low on energy? So, it's very different. So, yeah, Mike's saying after morning sprints, my blood glucose goes to 140 to 160. Yeah, I've seen mine go over 200 after a heavy set of deadlifts. Or when I broke the American record on the rowing machine, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, I think it hit 220 or something like that. So yes, it is something that we have to know the context, right? Mark Fredericks, hi Shawn, any thoughts on dialing down the last 10 pounds? Had great progress, carnivore, but seem to be stalled. Yeah, that's always going to be the hardest. Your body's going to fight to hang on to that last bit of body fat, and some people would argue that for a reason. It's there to keep our brain running, right? And maybe you don't need to get that lean. I mean, aside from that, yeah, I think at that point when you're getting like shredded, for most people, it comes down to eating less food. Comes down to however you want to do that by upping the protein or for some people decreasing the calories and upping the fat. There's different strategies for that. I think you have to deal with hunger. You have to deal with hunger to get down to that last. Like I said, if you're talking like sub, I don't know, 10% body fat. I'm not sure what your deal is. All right, what else we got here? I get this Lunder guy keeps saying you avoid my question, but he doesn't repeat his question. So I don't know what it is there. Sorry. What other questions do we have here? Can you do a lower fat carnivore? I have IBD and too much fat. Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, of course you can. Now, when you say lower fat, I don't think you can do a really low fat diet. Otherwise you end up with no energy. So I think the range that most people do carnivore in, from a caloric basis, is probably between 60 and 80% fat. That's typically where I run. I've gone up higher than that at times. I've gone lower than that at times. But I think from a chronic standpoint, somewhere in that neighborhood works well for most people. Yes, if you have fat, and again, the types of fat are important. Rendered fat typically is more likely to trigger gut irritation than non-rendered fat is, just simply for the fact that you just absorb too much of it too rapidly. You think about it, when fat enters our stomach, well, when meat enters our stomach in the form of, like, say, a steak, it has to be broken down slowly by slowly, and then little by little that solid is turned into liquid and sent into the small intestine, into the first part called the duodenum, and then eventually it's absorbed. But if you have a bunch of rendered fat in there, say a bunch of liquefied rendered fat, the stomach really doesn't have much to do with it. It's already liquefied, so it just kind of can dump it all in there, and then you end up with kind of this overwhelming of the capacity of the stomach to absorb that, and then you get symptoms. So, all right, what else do we got here? Why do you think I get kidney stones on carnivore, Launder? What do I think? I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know for sure. Um, you know, do you, if you have a history of kidney stones, maybe you had what I've seen for a lot of people is they come in, maybe they're particularly metabolically unhealthy. Maybe they've had a history of kidney stones. Maybe you've got a big old staghorn kidney stone in your renal medulla, and you just have pieces breaking off now. It could be due to, um, if it depends on the type of stone it is. Is it a calcium oxalate stone? That tends to be about 80% of the stones. And so some people find that as they stop consuming these oxalates, and the diffusion gradient is different, so that those stones start to come back into solution. So it breaks down, and then little cracks form, and then the big stone turns into a smaller stone, and then it's passed, becomes symptomatic. So again, I don't know your history, and if you've ever been scanned, and if they say, hey, you've had a big old stone in there and it's just pieces breaking out, that could be the case. Could be that for someone who is metabolically unhealthy, and this is usually what we see, there's a clear relationships between poor metabolic health and kidney stones, and there, I mean, there's in fact several papers you can look up on that. That it may be that while you're still metabolically unhealthy, the sort of acidification of the urine, which certainly can occur on carnivore, is still an issue. So I mean, it's obviously stay hydrated, fix your metabolic health as quickly as you can, so that you can avoid that, because kidney stones obviously suck. High calcium on carnivore. I eat no milk products. Is there an explanation? I mean, are you talking about a serum? I'm not sure if you mean serum calcium or calcium score. I guess I'd need more information on what you're doing. What's your skincare routine? I don't have one. I'm not a. I don't really do much in that stuff. I don't really do much with skincare. I mean, I eat regular food. I don't really have the best. I've never had the best of skin. I had really bad acne growing up. You can see I still have lots of scarring from when I had this cystic acne as a kid. And so and I've always had kind of a reddish complexion. So I'm not the skin care, whatever, um, model by any sense. Guys, unfortunately, I've got to run. I got to go pick up my wife from the airport. She's getting back in from Vietnam today. She was over there traveling for work. So got to run. It's great talking to you guys. Hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you. Hopefully, see you guys on another one. So thanks for following along on the YouTube channel and any other social media you do. So let's make a difference together, guys. I think all of us collectively can change the world. We can change the markets. Don't elections coming up. People are always talking, well, I got to vote for who and whatever. That's not your most important vote. Your most important votes are the votes you give every single day. If you continually vote for garbage food companies, drug companies, they will continue to have more and more power over you. Stop voting for them by giving them your money. All right, guys, we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.